I'm Clifton Dollison, pastor of the First Missionary Baptist Church of Winter Haven, Florida, also city commissioner for the city of Winter Haven. Well, originally, from what I do know of some of the history is that because our church established itself or was organized in what is called Florence Villa. And in the Florence Villa section, Dan Larimore, who was one of the first African Americans, was brought here by the Inmans. And Dan Larimore and his wife, Annie, sold the property to the church. And so in 1908 and in 1909, the church purchased the property. We moved from, which was downtown Winter Haven area, around Avenue A, near the Popeyes. Okay. And they started there. 5 families started the church in 1881. And so in the early 1900s, moved to Florence Villa and established the church there. So that would have been our second building there. And of course, in that area, since the church was there, the first church there are other churches that came along very early as well, too. Williams Temple was one of those churches. But our church being an early church, and there was a cemetery, and I believe that the Miss Jewett or the Inman family also supported that effort. So the first cemetery was near our church. In fact, it was almost connected to our property. And so the church was burying on that site. So that's where it started. The independent pallbearer hall, which does not exist today. It was torn down not too long ago, literally on the next corner from our church. And the independent pallbearer hall was basically designed to help or assist those with burials. So you joined the independent pallbearer hall. It was kind of cool because I actually joined the independent pallbearer hall. I thought it was just something cool that started probably 90 years ago. And they would meet regularly once a month. You had to pay your little dues, and they kept the record. And one of the last president of the independent pallbearer hall is still alive. He's 90-some years old. And his name is Deacon David Clark. He's a deacon in our church. So it made sense that the independent pallbearer hall was just on the other corner, and the cemetery was, across from the church. Well, would be across from the church now. So those souls where those bodies were actually removed and moved over here to Lake Maude. Lake Maude was established, I believe, in 1924. So that's kind of how all of this took place.
Okay.
No, I do not have any family here. I'm actually a transplant.
Okay.
I'm from Indiana, and but I came to pastor the First Missionary Baptist Church in 1992. So I've been here a long time. I feel like I'm part of this community, and of course, as I said earlier, that I have. It has been my honor and to inter several members here of our church in the cemetery, and some dear members. And so it was just amazing. It's still a very nice cemetery. We're trying to really understand a lot of the unmarked graves, and we would like to know, if possible, whose remains are there, so families would know. Also, we have the desire to erect a monument here that will have all the names on that monument, which will be great. Well, I think it's it is a place where the souls of and the bodies, of those who were once a part of this community, a thriving community, particularly an African American community, people who lived and worked and played and enjoyed their lives, and at the end of their lives, this is the place where their families chose to actually inter their remains. And so it was just wonderful that the Inman family, the Jewett family, had an interest in the community to want to help establish a cemetery. Actually would give the land so that would be possible. It was called the Colored Cemetery because in those days, African Americans or black people were not buried or allowed to be buried in white cemeteries. And so that was the tragedy of that. But, so this happens to be a African American cemetery, and perhaps the only one in Winter Haven that I'm aware of now. To memorialize it in a way that gives it the respect and the dignity that is deserving of. I think, though we may not always know, I've been to the tomb of the unknown soldier in Washington, D.C. And, I've stood there at the unknown soldier tomb a few times. And I always thought it says, known only unto God, and that the families and the people that are here, their children actually that are buried here as well. And there was a section that was actually designed for them, for children actually, and so that is particular to my heart as well. And I just want to be able to say that we've given the due respect that this plot of ground deserves, and that we would honor those people. And there still are perhaps lots that we may not know that people still own and may come and say, hey, we want to still bury our loved one in this particular lot. So we cannot deny it if the space is available. So, and if they actually duly bought the plot. So it's still an active cemetery per se. So it's not closed yet. And but I think with the work that we're doing here is well overdue. There were some people who were great caretakers of this over the years. I've got to give Mr. Darby, who was an amazing individual who through generations had kept it going. And then his son took it up from there, who was pastoring here in the city, Chris Darby. And so it was just amazing just to see how they were able to maintain that. So I'm happy to see that. So I'm hoping that the attention that's being brought to this that will bear out, really opportunity to really, be able to say that there were many in our community who served well, and this is their last and resting place. Yeah, I think over the years, I've been here 33 years, so the last 33 years, I've kind of seen the evolution of the cemetery. I've kind of seen where it was kind of left, pretty much in kind of rough shape. And I'm appreciative that the city has partnered to one, take responsibility and clean it up. It's not owned by the city, but the city has shown that they show the respect for these persons who lived in Winter Haven. And some of these graves go back in some of these people were born in the early 1800s. You have veterans that are here, World War I, II, and Vietnam. So you have, some, great men and women who served the armed services. So to me, this is certainly a treasure in many ways. And I think we'll have something that I think that would be fitting of those persons who lay in state here.